Right. All right, can everyone see that all right? Awesome, wonderful. Great, so like I said, my name is Willow.
And I'm Adren.
And we're just gonna talk a little bit about our sea turtle program today.
All right, so to back up a little further, there are 7 species of sea turtles worldwide, all of which are listed under the Endangered Species Act or on the IUCN Red List of Species. We're not going to focus too much on each species, although Willow and I could both talk to you for days about it. Maybe at the end, if you have specific questions about a specific species, we can talk about that later. But St. John, you all know St. John's a wonderful, beautiful spot. We're fortunate enough to have most of the island protected, as well as some of the surrounding waters. And this leads to a very great environment for nesting and foraging for sea turtles here. So these pristine beaches are beautiful for nesting, and we have very lush seagrass beds and coral reefs for foraging sea turtles. So we have 3 species of sea turtles that call St. John home. We have our leatherback, the green, and hawksbill sea turtles. Today we're going to really focus on the hawksbill because she is the primary nester on St. John. So we will be mostly referring to hawksbills throughout the rest of this presentation here.
So our 2020 nesting season has really gone off with a slower start so far this year. So we classify the nesting season as really July to November. So those are the summer months and into the fall months that we are expecting peak nesting activity for hawksbill turtles. Because we are a tropical island in the Caribbean, hawksbills can lay year-round. So it is not uncommon to have a nest laid in January, February, even March. But we really focus our efforts from July to October, monitoring those beaches daily, because that's when the most activity is going to happen. So on St. John, like Adren mentioned, we have a wonderful, beautiful island that a large portion of it is national park. And we're very fortunate to have nesting beaches that lend themselves very well to hawksbill nesting activity. We don't have too much beachfront lighting, not a lot of beach development. So the island itself is a great area and habitat for sea turtles. It also makes it a little tricky to monitor, as we have over 50 beaches that we have found could be suitable nesting habitat for turtles. So you can imagine you have an island of 50 beaches. It's going to take a lot of people to go out there and to monitor these beaches, if possible, daily. So this year in 2020, we have increased our volunteer turtle patrol team by almost 3 times, threefold. So if we went from about 30 volunteers last year to 90 volunteers this year, which is wonderful. We have volunteers, we call them, one of them is our littlest hatchling at about 4 years old. And so it's really great that we have young generations of kids that are very interested, are patrolling every Saturday, which is great. So we have kids involved, as well as very dedicated members of the community that are really spending hours of their time going out and patrolling these beaches. So shout out to everyone here that's on the talk today for patrolling so wonderfully the past few months. So the nest numbers for 2020 so far, we are in at 12 nests on St. John. So we have 12 nests that have been confirmed. So that means we've gone out, we have verified that there's an egg chamber, we have screened off the nests and staked them off for protection, and 12 nests have been laid on various beaches throughout the island. We also have 3 confirmed nests on an offshore key. So we're very fortunate this year to be permitted to even monitor some of the islands offshore of St. John. Because of our location of habitat, it's a hop, skip, and a jump over to the BVIs or to other islands nearby. So we aren't monitoring in the BVIs as our program, But just saying that the islands are very close together, that geographically for a turtle to nest on one offshore key and also nest on St. John is not unheard of or wouldn't be uncommon. So it's really great that we're able to extend our monitoring even outside of just the actual island of St. John. So St. John has on average about 15 to 30 nests per year. So 12 nests right now is great. We are hoping to get more nests even through October and November, as we still have active turtles that are currently nesting now. So it'll be cool to see what our final tally is come December. All right. So one of the most amazing parts of being a volunteer is coming across sites like this. So this is a beautiful track and nesting site that was found by Lonnie and Jennifer on Western Reef. So this is the first nest for us on Reef Bay. And at 6 in the morning, they were out there patrolling as they do several times a week and came across this beautiful track and nest site. So this is, of course, the goal for all of our volunteers and for us is to see new nesting activity on our beach patrols. Now, once the volunteers locate the track, they give us a call and we will come and protect the nest from predators and rope it off to educate the public on sea turtle nesting. So we have, in 2015, 80% of the nests found were depredated by mongoose or dog. So that was a pretty high rate of depredation. And obviously, with these sea turtles being critically endangered, we want to protect them as much as possible. So we implemented this screening process in 2016 and have been able to bring that number down dramatically. This season, we have not lost any nests due to mongoose and dog depredation. So that's wonderful. So this is just a hardware screen that we've placed over the cavity, which we confirm exactly where the cavity is. And so that we can place this screen directly over top of it. The openings are about 2 inches by 4 inches, which allow the hatchlings to get out of the screen, but deter predators from getting in the screen. And we also stake off the edges here and rope it off in some areas just to discourage the public from stepping on the grate and screen to further disturb the nest. And yes, so we've been protecting these nests and seen pretty wonderful results. It's not uncommon to see dog tracks and mongoose tracks surrounding the nest area, but not physically being able to get into it. So it's doing a great job of protecting them.
Yeah. We did have one turtle that did crawl over one of the nests that we had and disrupt the whole screen and rocks and everything. So it's pretty funny that you're trying to protect against mongoose, but a turtle comes in and moves everything around and knocks down stakes. Pretty great. So one of the other great things that we're able to do to protect all of these very valuable eggs is nest relocations. So a few weeks ago, we had some very large North swell that was coming into basically all the North Shore beaches on St. John. Some of our nests during that time frame were laid right at the high tide line. So the way we look at that is we look at the rack line or the swash line where any of that sargassum or any debris has washed up, or even just the high water mark. And we'll see how close is that to the egg chamber. If it's within a few feet, we make a judgment call on if we think any storm surge or things like that will inundate the egg chamber over the 2-month incubation time. And if we come to the consensus that yes, it is at risk of inundation, we will relocate those nests to higher ground. So this has to be done within the first 24-hour period. And that is because as these eggs are laid in the egg chamber, they orient as they drop in a certain way. So if you were to rotate that egg after 24 hours, the embryo would have probably have already attached to the side of the egg wall, and any rotation or movement of that egg would dislodge the embryo and that egg would not develop.
So being out there and having daily monitoring of high probability nesting beaches is of the utmost importance. So we are seeing the tracks from the night before. We are responding in a timely fashion. So if we need to, we can relocate those eggs to higher ground. So this is what we're doing. We have had 2 nest relocations, actually 3 so far this year. So that's pretty significant. Essentially what it is you're going and you're digging down to look for the eggs, which you can see here in this upper photo. This is an egg chamber, and we're carefully removing each egg 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 and placing them in a bucket of sand. So being very careful not to rotate that egg as we're doing this process, and to do it in a quick fashion so the eggs aren't exposed too long before they're placed into their new egg chamber. So we will build an egg chamber of similar size and depth, put the eggs in there, and that is their new home. So like I said, we've done that with 3 other nests that we're currently monitoring now. So we'll hopefully see the success rate of our nest relocations in the next couple weeks. But overall, this is a great practice for sea turtle nesting conservation, and over time, many beaches do this, and they've found that they have similar, if not better, hatch success rates with relocations. Because otherwise, had we not moved these nests, the whole egg chamber would probably be lost to high water. So pretty cool. It's a great thing, great conservation effort that we're able to do for our turtles that just don't go high up enough on the beaches.
Nest excavations. So from the day that, so nests can incubate for around 55 to 75 days during nesting season. Sometimes in the cooler months when the turtles lay outside of season, they can go for a little longer, or a lot longer. Some of them have gone over 90 days, which is incredible. But around 55 days later, these nests will hatch or start showing signs of hatching. And once we see signs of nest emergence, we will wait 3 to 5 days and then excavate the cavity to evaluate how successful the nest was. We wait that window to allow the hatchlings a chance to make it out on their own. But we often do find hatchlings left behind as we're digging up the cavity. So as you can see in this photo over here, we'll dig down and we will categorize the contents of the nesting cavity. We'll see hatch shells, we'll see some eggs that didn't quite develop, and we will organize those by their developmental stage. And we'll often find live hatchlings inside, as well as dead hatchlings inside. And all of this information allows us to see the hatch success and emergent success of these different nests. So how many of these eggs actually turned into baby hatchlings that made it out of the nest or not? So once we do come across some hatchlings like these guys, we will hold them until it is dark and release them to give them a fair chance of survival, and allow them to get out to the open ocean under the cloak of darkness. And so this season so far, we've been able to excavate 3 nests. 307 hatchlings have made it to the sea. And 41 of those were live hatchlings that were stuck inside of a cavity, inside of the nest cavity. So had we not been able to excavate these nests after the fact, these hatchlings very likely would have deceased underground. Our average hatch success is 75%. So that's pretty good. One of our 3 nests, this is a pretty low number of nests, so we're not contributing a whole lot of data to these numbers so far. But average hatch success in the Caribbean for hawksbills is around 80%. So we're pretty close to there with 75%. And our emergent success there at 59.5% is a bit lower, and that's because we did have one of these 3 nests that we've excavated
there was a dense layer of roots on the surface, and there were a lot of hatchlings stuck below the surface. So that's why that emergent success is low, because those hatchlings couldn't emerge out of the ground. But we were able to help a lot of them out and release them.
So we're very excited to have kind of anecdotally figured out that we have at least 5 sea turtle moms nesting on St. John. And the way we're able to do that is hawksbills and sea turtles in general have basically a 2-week nesting interval. So that's the time between each nesting event is about 12 to 14 days. So if we know the time that the first nest is laid and we have a turtle come back to the same beach exactly 14 days later, the odds are that is the same turtle. And that's what we've actually seen with one of our turtles, Tippy. She has laid 5 nests almost exactly 13 to 14 days apart for all 5 nests, all within a couple of yards of each other. Of 3 nests are all right next to each other, and all 5 nests are on the same beach. So odds are that is our girl Tippy. So we do know that we have her holding down the fort on Francis. So we are able to identify a few other turtles based off of their lay dates and their nesting intervals. We have Lady Keneal, who is nesting over on Keneal Bay. And she has 3 nests out there, about 2-week interval for each of her 3 nests as well. We have Princess Wednesday, who has laid 1 nest. So we're looking out for where she might nest again, and we're speculating that she could be nesting on those offshore keys. We have Coco, who is nesting, and she has a great 2-week nesting interval between her 2 nests. And she is hopefully going to nest a few more times in the future. She was a little bit of a late nester, so we're hoping to get a few more nests out of her. They can lay anywhere between 3 to 5 nests in a season. They will probably take a few years off, maybe 2 years off, between coming back to re-nest. And that's to replenish all of those resources. So it takes a lot to migrate potentially thousands of miles to a nesting ground, have a few months of not eating, depositing so many eggs and resources coming up to nest that she's not going to nest probably every year. So it's cool that we're able to identify these turtles and then see in a couple years if we're going to see them again. So we can do that at our end by setting up a Google Calendar and looking at nesting dates and intervals, but we can also do it, and we are doing it, on a scientific way as well. So what we are doing this year, which is new to the 2020 nesting season, is genetic sampling of hatchling tissues. So we're taking just a small piece of tissue sample from deceased hatchlings upon nest excavation, and we're able to store them in these sample containers or trays. So this is from a nest over on Livongo. We were able to take 8 samples from that egg chamber to be able to send off for genetic analysis. So we're partnering with University of the Virgin Islands, of Ocean Foundation, through NOAA as well, to be able to process these samples. And essentially what we'll do is we'll be able to figure out exactly who the mom is and give her a genetic marker. So Tippy will be identified through her genetics based off of her hatchling DNA. And if we get hatchlings from her again, we'll be able to know that it's her based off of those genetic samples. So a really cool way to do it. We're very excited to identify these turtles on a genetic level. So we have to have a shout out to our most valuable player or turtle, Tippy, holding down the team right for us. 5 nests on Francis, which is pretty amazing. So we're going to show just a quick video of Tippy nesting. So there she is. You can see her dropping those eggs out. For a size reference here, those eggs are about the size of a ping pong ball. And you see her kind of flexing her hind flippers as she's laying those eggs out of her ovipositor. And Willow and I were fortunate enough to be here at her nesting, and it was incredible to see. We were able to know when she was coming back based on that time interval.
So you'll see that she'll lay between 100 to 200 ping pong sized eggs in a single cavity.
Yeah. So pretty great. We had one night that we knew her first nest was going to hatch, roughly. That 55-day mark is really our time frame of looking at the nest site really closely to look for any depressions in the sand, looking for any emergent activity of hatchling tracks. So we had pinpointed her nest one to hatch, it was Monday, and also her to come back to lay her 5th nest also on that Monday. So we were very excited to potentially witness both a hatching and a nesting on the same night. We had a turtle patrol night watch that we held with some of our volunteers, and we unfortunately missed it by one night, which is fine, but it was pretty amazing because she nests within 10 feet of the nest that was potentially hatching as she was actively nesting. So pretty amazing that those two events coincided on the same night. So pretty wonderful what Tippy has done for her species.
Absolutely. Yeah, she was hatching her hatchlings potentially as she was coming up to life. Okay, cool.
So a lot of our program is focused on nest protection and monitoring. But as the program expands, we are also very interested in research, research component, educational outreach, and community engagement. So our research component is really focusing on 2 different projects. One of that being the genetic tagging of nesting females through DNA samples or tissue samples of the hatchlings. But another one is trying to combat and monitor and document this disease called fibropapillomatosis, or FP. So FP tumors are increasing in occurrence since 2017 here in the USVIs. So that's post-storms. The thought process might be that we've had new migrants coming into the waters that are now exposing our current resident foraging population of green sea turtles to this disease. Unfortunately, it is highly contagious. The causes of FP tumor growth is still largely unknown, but it's usually turtles that are already immunosuppressed due to either environmental stressors, lack of sea grass or food, poor water quality, pollution, or human-based stressors, kind of lumping that all together as well, of the pollution factor, harassment, things like that. Something that is causing that turtle to be immunosuppressed, they will present with these tumors. So unfortunately, we're seeing a pretty big increase of this at Maho, which is an important foraging ground for green sea turtles. So what we're doing is trying to document and monitor turtles with tumors, identify them on an individual level, and get a photographic catalog that we can refer back to over time to be able to see how many turtles have tumors and their growth rate. So that's all ongoing right now. But one thing that we can all do, especially for residents here of St. John or living or just coming to visit, is social distancing from the green sea turtles. And this is something we're trying to promote in everyday talk and also just throughout the community and the island as well. 6 to 10 feet. If we're snorkeling with these turtles, giving them their distance so we aren't harassing them, aren't stressing them out, aren't potentially leading to their immunosuppression, is something that we can do on the daily basis to help these turtles that have tumors or to help them to not develop them. So if you all would help us spread that word, that would be wonderful. You may also be asking yourself, how else can you help sea turtles?
So, from whether you're here on St. John or near a nesting beach or elsewhere in the world, there are several ways you can help sea turtles. If you are in a place where there are nesting turtles, if you notice a nest or a turtle, don't disturb them, give them space. They don't need to be touched. And their nest can be easily disturbed by you as well. So just being aware of those locations, you know, giving it proper space and trying to disturb that as not at all. Don't disturb it at all. Giving the turtles their space, as Willow mentioned earlier, that 6 to 10 feet, really gives them some space to be able to go about their normal behavior.
Sometimes some are going to be more skittish than others, and they'll tell you.
Mhm.
They'll give you a side eye or try to turn their back.
Sideshow,
to
yeah.
you. So if you see any signs, if they swim away from you, not chasing them, read the clues that they're giving you and give them their space, because you are on their turf. And another way that all of us can do is to decrease single-use plastics. So, use some Tupperwares. Try to avoid buying things that are individually wrapped. Avoid straws in places that have plastic straws. There are many ways we can help try to reduce the amount of plastics that we use on an everyday basis. And once you're aware of that, you'll be flabbergasted by how much plastic there is out there. Absolutely. And so when you're around, if you are in St. John or wherever you are in the ocean, there are sea turtles everywhere, practicing safe and responsible boating. So the sea turtles do have to come to the surface of the water to breathe. So being aware of that and knowing when you're in areas with sea turtles, and also being aware of your anchoring practices, using moorings when you can. The park here has done an amazing job with the moorings and has really reduced the amount of disturbance by anchoring in a lot of these really important grass beds. So that's been great, but still when you're not in those areas, be mindful of that. And another way to help is to support conservation organizations, like the Friends of the Park, like the Virgin Islands Park, and just support programs that are putting forth these conservation messages for ocean conservation in general, or for specifically sea turtle programs like ours and the many sea turtle programs worldwide that all aim to help recover these populations of endangered species.
So if you're wondering what you can do to get involved, there are a few different things that are available and things just to keep in mind, especially if you're a resident here on St. John. So if you do see turtle tracks or nesting activity, like we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, nesting activity can happen year-round. So keeping your eyes open for things that look like those pictures of the turtle crawls or the nest sites. If you see anything that looks like that, to contact us. The best way to get a hold of us is through our Gmail, which is vinpturtles@gmail.com, or you can always call the National Park Service as well, and they will get in contact with us. And this can be for anything turtle related. If you do happen to find a sick, injured, or dead turtle, we're very fortunate to have the STAR network that it works for St. John, St. Thomas, and St. Croix. And that's the Sea Turtle Assistance and Rescue. So this is a network of organizations and individuals that are here to respond to stranding calls. So that's calls of turtles that are in distress or injured or sick or dead, to get them the help that they need and also to collect data on those individuals. We're very excited that both Adren and I are STAR representatives and responders for the island of St. John. So we are able to go out to those calls if one is made to the STAR hotline number. Just a note about that, it is a voicemail, so just leave a voicemail and they will respond to it. So you might not actually talk to someone directly, but know if you do call that number that it is getting picked up. Also, feel free to spread that number anywhere you can, so we have that number widely available for people. Another thing is volunteer. So we are so excited that we have so many wonderful volunteers this season. We honestly could not do it without each and every one of them. To have almost near daily monitoring on almost all 50 beaches is huge. That gives us great satisfaction in knowing that we are out there monitoring. We aren't missing any activity. Our monitoring efforts are so strong that we feel very confident that we are finding those activities. So we have a really good representation of our female population right now. So that's great, and we couldn't do that without having our wonderful turtle patrollers. So if you are interested in volunteering, we will be
have a next season, 2021, which will run from July to November. So just keep that in mind, that we'll start advertising for that probably in March, April, May, that kind of time frame. But of course, you can always get in contact with us if you're ever interested in anything turtle related. We also have an Adopt a Turtle program that's going on right now. So this is part of becoming a Friends of the Virgin Islands National Park member. You also get to adopt a turtle, which is really great. So this is a wonderful time. If you've been thinking about getting a membership for $30, you're able to also adopt a turtle, get some wonderful turtle facts, a certificate, and makes for a great Christmas gift. But things like that really do go far to help fund our program and to be able for us to do the work that we love and to continue to do it for years to come. So we really appreciate you all coming even to this talk to learn more about turtles. And hopefully we'll see you on future talks as well. So we would just like to take a second and thank everyone for joining in. It's always great to sometimes see people. A lot of you guys are black boxes, but still it's wonderful to see you all coming out to support us and to support the program. So we would love to take any questions that anyone might have.
How do you do this? I have a question. Can you hear me? Okay.
Is that Lonnie?
Have you gotten any update on that BVI turtle that had the FP and they were gonna do something with it?
No, I haven't gotten an update on that one yet. So I've reached out to see what the status is, if it's still in rehabilitation or whatnot. Last I heard it was, but haven't heard since then. So yeah, it sounded like Canine, the veterinarian for Canines, Cats, and Critters was still actively involved in trying to figure out a treatment plan for him. But we did have a turtle that was rescued by the Star Network. I think this is like the 5th of October. And that turtle was brought to Coral World and having buoyancy issues, most likely related to a boat strike injury. So that turtle is currently undergoing rehabilitation at Coral World. So kind of great.
Is the princess turtle,
Wednesday.
is the Princess Wednesday, was that one of the Keneal ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday
Princess
named
Wednesday.
after my niece adopted a turtle and named her turtle Prince Wednesday. So that's where the namesake Princess Wednesday.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming and joining us today. We really appreciate all that you do and all the ways you support us. So, Tonya, would you like to say anything in closing?
I was just going to thank you for this amazing presentation. I am always learning new things, and it's just fascinating for me to think about how our work on St. John is so deeply connected with other small nonprofits and community activists and individuals around the world, because we share one ocean. And so it's just a really good reminder that all these little small acts of kindness, you know, all the work that you're doing, when we look at the overall impact, sea turtles are actually one of the species that we do see the effects in our lifetime of what happens when we work together to protect an endangered species. And conservation work is not always easy, and you don't always get to see the fruits of your labor. So this is just such an exciting program on so many levels. And thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us. For folks who are connected with youth, we do work with school kids, and this year a lot of our student groups are online. So we're happy to share this presentation is recorded. It'll be posted on our website. And also, if you wanted to reach out for a classroom to have their own special viewing, we can do that as well, because Willow and Adren are well-versed in sharing this with us. So without any more questions, and I'll leave it open. I know it's sometimes you may think of something after the presentation, Friends is always open. Facebook is a great way to message us, but you can also reach out to that email that Willow and Adren shared with you as well. So thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Have a great day. Happy Ocean Week.
Thanks.
Bye.
It keeps-